Hello, welcome again. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour, my friends. Good to have you join us. I'm get us going here in a minute as usual. Just letting people shuffle in, getting the stream out on Facebook and YouTube, and getting set up. So last week, briefly before I do an introduction, last week we did an overview of piano industry education. Um, and that was an interesting exercise. If we have a minute, we can get back into it this week. But I've got some other content in the pipeline instead. So we'll leave that on the back burner unless anybody wants to really dive into that. And if you're out there on Facebook and YouTube, I will share with you a link so that you can join us on Zoom. Give me a moment to pull that up here on my end to get the appropriate link. Let's see here. There we go. All right, I'll pop that over. So again, if you're out there on Facebook and YouTube, checking us on a live stream, you can join us on Zoom. I'm putting that link in the chat right now. And I'll give an introduction to the program, and then we'll dive into the meat of it. A couple people still trying to get in the room. So, welcome everyone to Piano Tech Radio Hour. Uh, in particular, the purpose of this program here is to meet every Saturday and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world. Includes manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online learning resource that brings you cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And again, if you're out there on Facebook and YouTube, I'll put the link in the chat for that. And then in particular, for Piano Tech Radio Hour, this program today, some of you may be joining for the first time or you kind of sporadically hop in. But if you'd like to sign up so that you can always keep up to date for each session and get the direct link to join, as well as get the recordings in the member area, then we can send you over to bit.ly/join PTRH. And you can officially join the crew here and make sure you keep abreast of everything that's going on. I'll put that link there in the socials, and I'll put it in the Zoom chat here. And again, a handful of more people jumping in, so we'll catch them up and then we'll roll into the general topic. So again, putting the join link into the chat right there. And yeah, and also soon, and this is sort of one of the major topics of discussion today, we'll be having yet another master class. So what we've been doing for this year and should continue into 2024 is for those subscribers to Piano Technicians Master Classes, we produce one master class a month on the third Thursday of every month, where we bring some educational topic that should enrich your knowledge of the piano world. Probably has a potential to also enrich your pocketbook because we try to bring in skills that are more advanced or that are less covered for piano technicians, give you opportunity to learn something that will increase your capacity as a professional. And so right now in particular, this Thursday, we'll be continuing a series that we've been doing with Joe Jackson of Jackson Pianos in St. Louis. I'll grab the link for signing up for that momentarily. And here it is. Let me just grab that and I'll pop it in there. Let me see here. That in the chat. So yes, on Thursday we'll be having that masterclass. Let a few more people in. Good to see everybody joining here. And right now we have just recorded the content for this session on Thursday. And basically what we've been doing is a series of sessions with Joe, 4 total. One more that we're going to be doing in December. The first session was a couple months ago, and we did just a general overview of dampers, trap work, back action, and dampers, the whole kind of damper system, and as well as pedals, right? There's some other things that go on with the pedals in the pedal lyre, and you've got 3 pedals, but generally that system. And so we got an overview of everything, a little bit of a sense if you're not familiar with all the different systems or all the ins and outs of what's going on. We got the overview in the first session. Second session, which we did last month, we dove into the pedal, lyre, and trap work system, which is, can actually exhibit quite a few problems. There's a lot of work that can be done there. There's a lot of work of value to clients. Pedal system gets old and worn out. It, makes some noise, doesn't function properly, doesn't function optimally. And we got a chance to kind of take it all apart, put it back together, all the way down to if you had an older pedal system that you needed to disassemble, maybe repair some leathers and felts, or even re-lacquer some areas. We got into all those details, polishing hardware and stuff like that. We got into that in the last masterclass. And then this masterclass that we were recording this week, and by the way, I'm here at Jackson Pianos. This is one of Joe's offices over here. One we recorded content for yesterday, we're really diving deep into the back action, so the mechanisms behind the action system that help control the dampers, and the actual dampers themselves. Got into some details there, and I will say in words, I'm saying in words what's going on now, but what's cool about today's session is we'll actually dive into, I'm going to call it kind of like a behind the scenes look. So there's some additional production that I'm going to do throughout the week before we reach Thursday's masterclass. And so basically we'll get a chance to show you some of the sort of raw footage, the audio. I need to combine the pro audio with the pro video. I've got 2 different video angles we need to cut between views for optimal quality. But, I think what we try to do here on Radio Hour is give you a taste of, what you can access if you are a masterclass subscriber. So I don't necessarily mind sharing some of that content in a raw form, as opposed to if you're a subscriber, you get the whole lecture, you get to ask questions, you get to see the final polished version of everything. But we'll share kind of a little bit of the behind the scenes teaser content here. So admittedly, won't be perfect, but you will get a good sense. We will learn some things today, and you will get a good sense of what's to come if you want to join us. All right. Now, I guess some other people have joined here since we started, didn't maybe hear some things up front. So I'll recap really quickly. Last week we did a cool session where we did kind of a general overview of what does the piano industry look like educationally. How can you think about different modules of what you need to know to be a great piano technician? What if you're not just a general technician, but if you niche into different areas, what are those areas? What are the areas of importance that are today versus what were the areas of importance of yesterday? And are they changing? And how would you handle this type of thing? And how would you modularize it? So, if there's an area called piano tuning that you want to master, what are the subcategories of that? How can you take it in a bite-sized manner? How can you teach it, from fundamentals to advanced, and make sure you add things in the right sequence? Now, of course, we didn't get into all of the details of that, but we got a nice general overview within the session last week. So what I'll say is, I think there was some technical glitch where some people that might have typically been able to join didn't get the link or something last week. We didn't have as many people as typical. So if you were really excited about that content and for some reason you want to dive back into it today, and we have time, we can try to pull that document up and have some discussions around piano industry education if we want to shift the direction. But what I'll do up front is I'll stick with the plan of showing some content from the I want to say Steve Brady. I don't know why. The Joe Jackson masterclass that we're going to do on Thursday. Okay. So, and feel free to communicate in the chat. Like I said, if you have questions, comments, you want to change the direction of the discussion, this is for you guys. So whatever you're enjoying, we'll try to please you. All right. So what I'm going to do here is bring you up. And by the way, I've been using some really cool new technology here for the content that we're recording. It's a 360-degree camera. So what you'll be seeing is content from that camera. It's got its own built-in audio. We recorded some pro audio that will sync up with the video later, so you'll get a better audio quality in the final version. But what's really cool about it is we can have a camera that captures multiple angles at the same time, and that's been an issue sometimes in previous content gathering. There's a lot of stuff in the scene that's important when you do videography around this content. And sometimes it's hard to capture it all or be able to capture the exact right angle on it all. And so what this allows us to do with the 360 view is to have access to multiple angles at the same time. And ultimately, I think there's situations where we can share literally a 360-degree video where you could put on literally a set of VR goggles and look in a circle around you at all the different things going on. In reality, the way that we're gathering the content right now, there's really only one or two, views of importance, and it's pretty clear what those are at any given time. So what we can do is we can take the 360 view and focus in on whatever's important at the moment, and be exclusive to like the most important thing in the field of view, but also not miss anything and with our original recording. So that's what you're going to be looking at today. And this is kind of like the raw footage, and I've kind of curating here what I think are going to be the most interesting segments. And also, it's just one camera angle. So there's also another handheld camera angle that we'll be integrating. So you just see things from a limited one camera angle view, limited audio production and so forth. But it should be enough to give you some educational content, something interesting to check out. Okay, so let me go ahead and share that. The audio should work fine, and I will do some manipulation of the video angle during the session, so bear with me if I'm doing that in the middle. And if there's any issues on your end, let me know in the chat. Okay, here we go. Oops, when I shared too soon. Let me make sure and do the audio share. Okay, perfect. Entering more people. All right, let's take a look, guys. I'm just gonna literally play clips and move from clip to clip. Just made some notes about what might work, and we'll view them as they go.
All right, we're going to go into some of these back actions. We're going to look at some older actions, and we're going to look at some more modern actions. And the actions that I've set out right here, in particular, are both Steinway actions, but they're different errors. And so I want to show you some of the different things you're going to find in some of these pianos. So when you're working on a piano, you've got an idea of what is inside of the instrument. Okay. This first one, by the way, if you hear knocking sounds in the background, that is us stringing a piano in the other room because we are a working piano rebuilding shop. So there's always stringing and whatnot going on. Okay, so this is a Steinway that is older. This is from the turn of the around the 20s, probably actually. Now, a couple things you'll note is one, it's spring loaded, okay, which actually would not have been the case. So this one's a little confusing. Um, this also has rigid tabs, and it's also leaded. Now it's filthy because this is what it looks like inside of your client's piano. So it's really important that you capitalize on that. Their client needs a piano clean. This is disgusting. They want an instrument that's clean. You want to get paid. This work is gravy money if you learn to do it right. So watch closely. All right, so this is a Steinway. It's got its spring receptor on the end, pivot points on both sides, and it's felt lined to cut down a noise here. So when it lifts, now underneath here is, it's only glued on the back side, and that's because how you adjust this is by putting tabs of paper underneath to lift it, to work on your timing on your tray, okay? So that's how you set the timing. If this one's going a little slow, you take a little sliver of paper and you slide it underneath here. That's intent. That's why they only glue it down in the back, okay? Now these tabs are glued on with high glue, and they're kind of known for breaking. And when a tab on a Steinway breaks.
So guys, I'm just going to check in here real quick. I'm getting a little bit of feedback that some of you have a low volume. What I would recommend is I tried to pick our clips that had the best volume on this particular camera. Again, we have some better audio on a different on a direct audio, Joe's wearing a lav mic, so we have that audio. We just didn't sync it up yet, but I think it should be loud enough for you to capture it if you turn your personal volume up or put on some headphones or something like that. I try to pick the louder clips. But if everybody's having an issue, let me know. I don't want it to be a waste. We can try some other clips and things like that. But again, in the chat, let me know. I can hear it fine. So let me know among you who's having difficulty, who isn't, stuff like that, and we'll proceed accordingly. I'm going to continue with this, and then we'll check back in the chat and see how everybody's experiencing it.
You're in trouble because you can't fix it without pulling the whole thing out. Now, if you end up pulling it out, you may want to think about making some alterations. One alteration.
Okay, now I realize I have a little audio control on this particular clip, so I turned it from 50% to 100. My guess is that's gonna enhance things for the folks that had an issue. I don't know if it's actually changing on my end, but let's see if that helps for you guys as well.
This is a more modern Steinway. One alteration is to screw down the tab, so that way if you have failing glue joints later, they stay in place. You have enough room to install flathead screws like this without it causing any problems. Now on this more modern one, which is still old, you've got non-rigid tabs. They're spring-loaded. And the upside with that is that when it goes past the knife, it pops past it and it gets caught. Okay, that is the point of a spring-loaded tab, and that's also the point of a rigid tab. A rigid tab is rigid, but it still will flop. Okay, so this is to get around the Sustanuto knife. You'll typically see cutouts like this in these areas because this is where you're going to have to get things past. So you'll have a cleat, or you'll have a Sustanuto monkey, things that will swing that you don't want the tab to hit. This one, notice, is not spring-loaded. It is aggressively leaded, all right? So it's got all these leads, and that helps keep the weight and allows you to pull down on the damper felt, so the damper felt will stop the piano from making noise. These are always, well, pretty much always, machined bolts, all right? They go inside of the tab, and you got to be really careful when you loosen them. Only loosen them enough to get the damper out. Don't over loosen them because these will fall out all over the place and get lost. So it's really important that you don't reverse these out to where there's just a thread holding them in place, because you will lose them and then you'll have to try to order some, or it can be a headache, especially when you don't plan on going back to your client's house anytime soon. Again, this one is felt line, but the felt line is much smaller and it sits inside of a recess. And this one was not put on properly. It's glued all the way across. It should not be glued all the way across. It should be only glued in the back end and open in the front. Whoever did the work to this at some point in time replaced the felt and didn't do it right. All right, so here is a modern tab. This is from a Tokuai. Tokuai, Renner, they're very similar. I install both. I don't really have a preference, to be honest. I like them both. Okay, so one of the main differences is that with the new models, they screw on from the front like this. They don't come up from the top. The advantage of that is if you have a broken one, you can just remove one without having to take the whole assembly out. Now on this one, the screw is brass. These old Steinways, they're metal and they rust. The brass one is much more superior. In addition, the brass is softer than the damper wire. Okay, I don't like these metal ones because they tend to pit the damper wire, and then if you have to move it ever, you've got this damaged area that gets snagged and causes you problems. These are brass, so they're softer. All right, really, that's really a very nice upgrade because it really does help with making sure that you can make fine adjustments without a headache. This also has the ability to have a spring if necessary. It's got the slot that's pre-lubricated, or you can also have them leaded. Now here is one of my favorites. This is a WNG, Wesson Nickel & Gross. Very similar, but there are some key changes. One is that it's a spoon design on the damper tab. That way you can bend it and adjust your timing off of your key end with the spoon, which is very useful. In addition, you've got this small adjuster here that goes into the tray, so you can adjust the tray timing with this screw as opposed to having to use little felt shims. This is a massive upgrade, huge improvement. Now I'll show you, there's some other ways that people work around that, work around having to build this style, but get some of the benefits of a more adjustable dampered timing and tray speed. This one also has, it uses a Bellyman felt on the top and then a bushing felt here, and then the ability to put leads in or out. They're also self-lubricating, so this slot is made out of a composite material that gets slicker and slicker the more it gets used, so you don't have to ever put any lubricants on it. That is your Wesson Nickel & Gross tab. Now, I'm going to set all this aside, and we're going to look inside of the cabinet next at the damper back action that's inside of this Baldwin from the 1980s. This is a Baldwin R with a Renner action. Okay, now we're going to look inside of here.
All right, let's Okay, so a little sneak peek at that segment. I'm guessing that the audio is a little bit better here because I found this volume control on the player. But let me know if anybody's having issues, or let me know if you guys have any comments, questions, or anything like that. Again, if you've arrived in the middle of this, we're sharing some content we gathered. I'm literally right here in St. Louis with Joe Jackson Pianos, 23-person team over here, doing a lot of cool work in the community, refurbishing pianos. I didn't realize this, but learned that they exclusively do used pianos almost for ethical reasons, trying to make use of things, trying to be efficient in terms of the environment and sort of recycling of pianos. They even take pianos in and help people get rid of them in an ethical way. Getting some feedback. I think that the audio was much better, so that's good. Thank you very much, Triangle, for chiming in there. But yeah, so we're looking through some of the content. This is literally one angle. It's kind of a behind the scenes look at our filming. One video angle from a 360 camera that we utilize for this type of content that we're just implementing. And we have another camera angle. We have pro audio that will be integrating in the final clips. Joe's wearing a lav mic, so on and so forth. But trying to give you guys a preview, give you something interesting to learn. I guess I might as well, pun intended, chiming in. Yes, totally. I'll take the opportunity, because we have the 360, there's me, right? There's our other second camera angle that we're utilizing. This is actually Joe's refinishing room, where they do a lot of piano refinishing, dedicated room, ventilated properly. Again, they do eco-friendly, health-friendly chemicals when they're doing this type of work. And so yeah, this is his refinishing room. We decided to use it as the studio for the day. And yep, there's me filming. And he's got I don't know, tens of thousands of square feet, including this building where he also has a showroom, as well as another storage space. It's pretty cool stuff going on here. One of the advantages of being in St. Louis, where real estate's a little bit more affordable than some of the markets I've seen. I've been in Chicago and New York and so on and so forth. I'm not going to show this clip, but again, sort of behind the scenes look at some of the cool stuff we can achieve. Actually right there inside the action, we can change our angles, take a look at things very closely. I bet you never saw what it was like to be inside the piano looking back up at you while you're tuning. That's kind of a look at what's going on. There's another view of capturing things inside the action, getting an awesome look at stuff. This clip, I think we're going to show because I deemed that it be sufficient on its own. So you'll get it. You got to look inside the action as well here. And we'll get it started. Oh, to preface, this is one of Joe's team members, one of his 23 team members, Matt. Matt actually focuses on some of this back action work to the degree where, he's even more adept at it than Joe. So Joe can bring him in and have him talk from his, more consistent firsthand experience of working on this stuff with more alacrity. So we have Matt come in and do some content here on the back action work. And he actually is given a lot of info on how to basically rebuild the back action. And we consider this like an intermediate level class. So, it's not like a step-by-step procedure, but we do get pretty close into it, you'll see. And it's to the degree where you can gain a lot of information and take yourself to the next level if you want to get in this type of work. So let's take a look at this clip.
Okay, awesome. So Joe talked about some of the stuff with a few basic repairs and things like that, and an overview of everything. What we're going to talk about next is getting into when a back action is beyond just doing those basic repairs and when it's necessary to actually replace the back action. Before you even get to working on the new one, first thing you have to do is get the old one out of the way. And so first we're going to go over some measurements that you need to take, and then how to actually get the back action out. The first thing that is on every piano other than Steinway is going to be in your way is the Sostenuto knife. What you want to do is take a measurement of where these mounting points are on their height, and then you also want to take a measurement of how high up this actuator is. You want those so that when you put it back in at the end, you can put it back in the same spot and have as little that you have to mess with as far as changing the position and adjusting the timing for the pedals and everything.
I'm going to stop you, and then when you go back, when you show those points again and show.
There we get a little direction.
How high up this actuator is. You want those so that when you put it back in at the end, you can put it back in the same.
I'm just going to fast forward here. We had a little cut. Here's some measuring we're doing.
What measuring point you choose, as long as you choose something that is the same and consistent on each one. So for this one, we're going to choose the bottom of this metal bracket. And on this one, we can see it's set at about 75 millimeters. And so for that one, we'll reference the bottom, and we'll just reference that same point on all of these brackets. Usually there's 4. It depends on how the sections of the piano are actually laid out. And then for this timing actuator, what we're going to do is measure it from the top. And so our measurement is coming out to about 10 centimeters. And then you want to write that down, and then to get the Sostenuto knife out of the way, you disconnect it from this actuator that goes down to the trap work. And then on this one, you have a screw up here on each one. What you have here is you have a screw that actually holds it, and then there's another screw in the back. The screw in the back is for adjusting how far in and out you are from the damper tabs. And so those 4 mounting points, that's where all of your actual adjustment gets done on the Sostenuto on a piano like this. Sometimes you have 2 screws and there will be a rocker in the middle. Sometimes you have a single screw on that part, and then there will be another part that has a separate screw for the in and out. It depends. Once you get that out of the way, the next thing you're taking a measurement of is your damper tabs. And so for this one, those damper tabs are about 78 millimeters. You want to check those and at least at the ends of every section, because sometimes when damper trays are put in initially, they aren't actually put in a way that is perfectly flat and uniform all the way across. Normally it's pretty close, but sometimes you'll run into weird pianos where it, dips in the base or does.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so on this one, your damper tab.
Just explanation here. We had a cut there and I had him do a little bit more explicit view of the measurements so it was clear for the viewer. So we'll just review that. It might be slightly redundant, but again, we're doing a little bit of behind the scenes here. So check that out.
Height is about 76 millimeters. And you'll see some of them are lower, some of them are higher. You want to check at least once at the breaks of each section just to see whether or not they're even. And if they aren't even, you want to make a note of that, because maybe you have a piano that has something different going on, or maybe there's something weird that you need to look into further for how the back action interacts with the rest of the action. After you take the tab height, the next thing you want to get is the underlever height. This is where your keys actually are press up on your underlevers to raise your dampers. You want to make sure that you get this in those same spots all the way along so that you have a reference point for when you're putting in the new back action. On this one, adjust my tape measure a little bit. Looks like the underlever height is around 48 millimeters. And then you want to do that same check all the way along. It's about 48 there. Yep. And then with any new back action, it's usually not an issue, but with older back actions, especially ones that other people have worked on, anytime you see sections where you have a group of underlevers that are just vastly different heights from everything else, you want to make a note of that so that you can look into it later and make sure there isn't something going on here where, maybe an A graph has been replaced and so that string sits higher because it wasn't replaced right, or things of that nature. And so you want to make sure that you note any inconsistencies down here that are really obvious so that later on when you run into whatever problems, you can be like, I noted that and we can fix it. Once you get those measurements the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go through and remove all of these screws. This will be after your sostenuto knife is already off. Once you loosen these screws, not remove them, just loosen them. Once they're loosened and they're not, holding onto the damper wires anymore, I normally like to push them all down to make sure they're loose. And then from that point, you can remove the dampers.
All right, cool. We'll move on to another clip. Again, if there's any questions, comments, feel free to pop them in there. I will take a minute to repost the link for subscribing to this particular masterclass in case you're interested and you want more. Again, this is sort of behind the scenes look at some of the filming we did this week for Joe Jackson's masterclass on trap, sorry, this one is back action and dampers, but I think the link I'm just realizing the comment I made there as to what the name of it was is incorrect, but the link is correct. That's to back action and dampers masterclass. Sign up for that or subscribe, and you can join us on Thursday or even review the recording if you're not able to join us on Thursday. So check that out. All right, I'll move on to another clip. Again, on the table, if we're interested and you want to change the subject, we can go back. I'm willing to go back and talk a little bit more about piano industry education. Be happy to bring the document back up that we were working on last week, talking about the different, sort of categories of information, how to separate it out, how to think about it, how to modularize it, how to create a hierarchical structure of information, foundational all the way up to advanced, that makes sense, clearly with the purpose of how can we make the education more efficient, accessible, and things like that. So, but if you guys are excited about continuing this content, I got a little bit more to share. All right, this one wasn't great for sharing. This one. Okay, I think this one's good. Let's take a look. So we're sitting here with Matt, who's a member of the team over here at Jackson Pianos, working with Joe, and he does a lot of this back action work. So and does it repeatedly and consistently, and so he's a great guy for Joe to bring in and help us understand what's going on. Let's take a look at this clip and dive a little bit deeper into this process of. And this is really like actually replacing the back action or refurbishing the back action.
Now that we have the action out of the piano, in theory, we can work on making the new back action. This is a standard back action default thing that you would buy from Takai. What it is a rough approximation of the style of tray that you will see in most Steinway and Baldwin and a few other brands of pianos. And for these brands of pianos, this one will work almost seamlessly. For more obscure brands or back actions that the original is vastly different from this, in order to use this, you're probably going to have a lot of thinking that you have to do to figure out what you need to alter to actually make it work. For the initial setup, you want to actually look at the new tray against whatever back action you are planning on redoing. You want to make note of any spots where there's a spot for a mount for a spring, any cutouts for clearances and other things, like this one, which is for the Steinway Sostenuto monkey, would be right here. And then a spring goes right there. You also want to look at the underside and see what all changes need to be made for clearance and other things. They had to actually chisel out some spots for the action and the Sostenuto monkey to fit on this one. And then they also had leather glued on here for the sustain pitman. And then your main points of contact for mounting the entire.
All right, there's a little look at that. Let's continue on to some more clips. Again, we're taking a look at some behind the scenes from our Joe Jackson masterclass coming up on Thursday here, part of our monthly series, giving you just kind of one camera angle without our pro audio integrated and final editing before we share these clips. And by the way, what we're trying to do here is make sure that we can do a live masterclass where you have the opportunity to ask questions and engage with the lecturer, while at the same time having, efficient content that focuses on, the really important parts of what's going on. That's kind of evolved as our hybrid model of being able to do something live, but also deliver the highest quality of the content. And so part of why I'm saying that is Joe, as we produce this, said over and over again, I really love the questions. I really love the engagement. It helps me understand which direction to go, what we want to talk about, And so keep that in mind and make sure and join us on Thursday. Joe's going to be happy to ask questions, go on a tangent, talk about pretty much anything you had a question about. I've had him participate in other lectures, and I know he can go in pretty much any direction that you're interested in. So feel free to jump in and take a little bit of control of the conversation and get something out of it that suits you. We won't look at this clip, but that gives you another view from behind the scenes. There's a look at that piano, that Baldwin that we were looking at. Made use of a little bit of an action model to help understand the concepts. And there's some of the Wessel, Nickel, and Gross parts that we use to talk about what's going on there and how to work with those parts. And we're at about the 15-minute mark here left, so we'll be wrapping up pretty soon. So let me know if you have any questions, comments, or anything before we do wrap. It's another segment where we filmed Joe, getting deeper into that stuff. The audio is better on his lav on some of these, so I didn't want to share these clips. It was a little bit of a waste. But you can see at this point in the content gathering, we're talking about replacing the actual dampers. There's a guillotine over here, cutting dampers, look at the different types of dampers, the installation process, and so on and so forth. It's interesting. I feel like I wanted to show the clip where he added that piece of tape. So there we go. Actually, this one's worth checking out. Yeah, this one. Oh, actually, this one might be worth here. Let me get into this one and see what's going on. We may not get to the next one. Let's try this one out though.
Okay, so here we've pulled the damper guide tray. Okay, so what happens with this is it controls the movement as far as wiggling around and flopping all over the place of the damper. So the tabs are down here holding it, and this is sort of like your finger on a pool stick. Okay, this makes sure that it travels. Now, if you were here, you'd be able to feel this and say, man, it is really rubbing a lot. So when I move this up and down, it's got friction the entire time. Now, that means that when you play it over and over again, it's going to start to get caught. All right, it's going to start not coming down quickly and stopping. It's going to either get stuck like this, or it's going to come up and slowly come back down. Now, those are common things you'll see on a piano, where the damper will go up and then slowly come down. The two things to check is first, your back action tab. Okay, it could be your back action tab is just really frictiony. Your back action tab should be only around 1.5 grams or so, 2 grams maybe of friction. It's very, very light, like a flange on a hammer. The other thing it could be is the tray. And the tray is, I would say, is probably the most common, and it is the most weather related. So when a weather change happens and you notice that the dampers aren't coming down quickly and they're lingering, that is more than likely your tray. Because what happens is that the weather will change the pie of your hole, okay? So now your hole will shrink or it will pull back. Usually it will shrink and that causes it to jam.
Get stuck.
Whoa, it just gave up. Sort of like how your hair, remember, this is wool, it's fur.
Just had a little technical difficulty on the other camera there. So I'm just fast forwarding to another point in this particular one.
You know how your hair in the wintertime will frizz out? This will do the same thing, and it starts to grab and gets grabby. Now, you can use a lubricant, and that will, maybe make it stop for a little while, but it will always come back. You can't make it stop with a lubricant. So ProTech won't do anything to make this permanently gone. What you really want to do, and the cheapest thing to do, aside from refelting this, is you find yourself a number 7 bridge pin. I find to be the most common size that will fit what we need. If you want to be more exact, you do a mic, take your micrometer and mic this wire, and you want to go a couple thou, like 1 or 2 thou bigger than the damper wire. I find the number 7 is usually a couple thou bigger than most damper wire. Then I pull all the dampers out and I jam number 7s in the entire thing. Then I go through with ProFelt, not ProTech, ProFelt, and I inject every one of them and soak them. And I leave them like that for a day or 2. Then when I come back, these pins that, look, you can see it in tapping, it's not going anywhere. When I come back, I go like this and the pins fall right out. Or half the pins will just be laying inside of the inside of the cabinet. So we have a dog that its mommy won't let it outside right now, and it wants to be with her outside, and the dog is moving inside 11 miles.
Your dog, by the way.
Then you collect all your pins, and you reinstall your dampers, and they should be good forever. I find that when you resize the holes, it typically lasts indefinitely. I've never really seen any bounce back, and I've been doing this particular repair for around 15 years, and I've not had a relapse ever. So it's a pretty permanent repair. ProFelt is a resizing, and it's it was commonly used in the hat making industry. So that's where I believe it started. It was used for felt hats and stuff like that. And it works great on all kinds of felt for relaxing and controlling the nap and the felt pattern. Ma, that dog.
All right,
We're
let's check
trying to
out
record.
something else here. Let's see, let's go about. Oh, no, I think there might be a little bit more in here. No, not that one. Yeah, this one. Okay, guys, again, if you're just joining us, reviewing some behind the scenes from our masterclass here with Joe Jackson. We're here in St. Louis filming it. I'm over here still. I'm headed home back to Chicago today, but we're sharing just one camera angle from our 360 camera. There's our other camera angle. There's our pro audio equipment over there. We'll have mic, so audio, video. On Thursday will be more polished, but still give you a chance to take a look at some of what was going on, get the content, and take a look.
Okay, so this little tool right here, okay? One of the most important tools. I've used this for measuring more than almost any other tool in the shop. This gets used 30 times a week by people, all right? So many uses. One of these uses is figuring out if your damper wire is in the correct position. Now this is usually true, and this is usually true. So if you get up, you butt yourself up to here, and you roll up nice and slow, and look, pretty darn close. We're a little off here, because there's a bend right there. But by and large, we're straight.
And you literally do that on the stretcher of the pin, or just
Yeah.
someplace with a straight
So
edge?
I do that. I will put a box of dampers here on the floor, and before I install each one of them, I throw it up here, and I will check it real quick. Or the other thing I do, if I'm in a hurry, or if I'm in a good mood, I take a piece of painter's tape that's about yay wide, like a 3-inch one. I put it across here. Then I take this guy and I strike a line. If I'm in a hurry and I want to try to get through them, that way I have a black line there. And I take these guys and I set them like that, and then I make sure that it's up against that it's following the black line, and I install it. And then I go to the next one. Do you want me to show that? Do you want me to just make one? I want to take a.
So we have him do that.
So if you want to watch, you on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I take a piece of tape like that, line it up, strike a line. Okay. Now, as I'm installing them, I can just throw this up here real quick and make sure that I'm following the line. See a little off there? Now I'm on all the way to this point. Now I'm a little off here. I'm not going to mess with that, because that means there's a bend there with a bending plier. That's too extreme. You only address the front to back with a motion like this if it's all the way off. So if we looked at this, we saw that. See, a gradual decay away from true. That's the one we're looking for. See, now look. Also, you can take it like this, and you can hold it, and you can go. Boom. Look at that. Super fast way to sit and get your heads lined up. Because if you don't glue your dampers on with your head flat in the very beginning, you may have gaps of air here where you're hanging down, or you're not gluing it down properly. So you want to make sure that is settled before you go and glue it all your heads on.
Okay, guys. We got about 5 minutes left in the hour, so I think we'll stop with the behind the scenes part of the show for today. If anybody has any comments or questions, feel free to say so in the chat. I'm actually curious that, I'm not sure how many of us here are, have you done this type of work before? Is this new stuff to you? Is this helpful? Is there any specifics like, hey, this is really cool, but I wish I saw this or that? Of course we have the more polished, edited content, more details that we do go into in the masterclass, but totally open to any feedback or input, because we're creating this content for you. We want it to be, exactly what's useful for you. So please let us know around that stuff. Triangle Piano Service says different camera angle would show deviation of damper. Of course, yes. Hope that was apparent. That's part of the caveats of all this being behind the scenes. Pretty much anywhere where you saw what we were doing today, and you said, well, I wish I got a closer view of that, or that's typically what we're capturing with the other camera. Or if you couldn't hear something, like I said, we've got the lav mic on Joe and pretty much capturing top quality pro audio, whatever he's saying, whatever Matt's saying, and those different things. Great. Yeah, anything else though? Does anybody care to share? Like, have you done damper replacement? Have you done back action work? Have you worked with these WNG parts and this kind of stuff? I'd be curious to know. And if you're interested in moving into this type of stuff, if you haven't, let me know. Does that sound cool? Does that sound interesting? Does that sound like too advanced for you or whatever? Okay. So I'll start wrapping things up, maybe with the outro here, and we'll get going for the day. But yeah. But other than that, we got some good content for today. All right, well, everyone, thank you for joining us today for Piano Tech Radio Hour. We've reaching the end of another musical journey, and we want to thank, of course, Joe Jackson for hosting us here in St. Louis, and for all the dedication he's put into building this business and his willingness to share. He's been very open with sharing everything that he's been working on over the years and how he's built this 23-person operation and how it's growing and changing. As always, over here, we're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. For those of you that joined us today by signing up for this session individually, you can make your life more convenient. You could subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour, just $16 a month, and you get the recording of today's session in our member area, as well as automatic registration for each week's new session. You can sign up there at bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. And yeah, we'll pretty much see you all again next week. Got a couple more minutes in the hour, so we'll see if there's any comments here worth sharing. Johan Krebs says the tip about using the number 7 bridge pin was most helpful. All right, that's great. Good to hear. All right, folks. Well, I got to catch a train back to Chicago, so I'm gonna hop out right now, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you. Feel free to email me if you got any questions, comments, or anything like that. Excited to talk to you guys and help you with what you need. All right, we'll catch you later.